ruins our lives. It's yet you bet, but sure we can fight it. You know that she'll help. Not her, then who else? No in between. She'll make it a scene. Cause
it's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters. Y'all come and see. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and me. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters. Listen and learn. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters. Y'all come and see.
build your dreams up with Paula. She got ya. She can reach your goals and soar. She will keep your mind on the dollar. That's a disease that can be cured.
It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and I. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters for you and me. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters. Listen and learn. It's the queen from Queens with the money when it matters. Y'all come and see.
These are the money minutes that matter with Paula, that's for sure. Get your money right when your money's tight. For debt, she's got the cure. She knows the way to help you save your money today. Build a budget, grow your wealth, nurse your health. Come on, don't delay. With her advice, to learn how to allocate. Don't hesitate, wait, this is the day to elevate your health, your wealth, and everything else. Get money saved no matter what is dealt. There's a disease that thrives that ruins our lives. It's yet you bet, but sure we can fight it. You know that she'll help. Not her, then who else? No in between. She'll make it a scene. Cause
It's the queen from Queens.
Hey guys, this is your girl Paula, the queen from Queens. These are Wednesday Wealth Workshops. During these workshops, I bring to you some of the best in the business. People say they don't have access to ask the right questions to get the right information. Tonight you will. I'm bringing you someone that I trust, who is my financial advisor, someone who was noted and voted to be one of the top 50 financial advisors in the country. This brother has a plethora of information for you. You will not be disappointed. So get your questions ready. I bring to you my friend, my family, Mr. Antwone Harris. Hey, Antwone. Antwone, you're on mute.
Paula, good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Always, always. Every time I bring you to my show, it's so concerning because there's so much I want to ask you, so much information that I want to get to everyone else. And I know that there's never enough time. So with that being said, I'm jumping right into this. And I want to tell people in total transparency, I've known you for about 10 years. And I know that you were a vice president of one of the top 100 companies in the country. And you decided to open up your own. And I wanted to be one of your first new clients. And I have not been disappointed. And I thank you. And I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me. I feel very blessed. So anytime I'm able to give information back in my community, I count that as a blessing. So thank God. I thank you for the time.
And that's what's important, right? So right now we're talking about stock market, we're talking about investing, we're talking about compound interest, we're talking about retirement because you're a retirement specialist. But I got to tell you, Antwone, getting into the market is scary. And traditionally within our community, we didn't know how to invest, where to invest. My dad never invested. He barely had enough money to make the ends meet. So where do people start? Do we go to a Roth? Do we go to a 401k? Do we buy Apple? Do we buy Facebook? What do we do?
Right. I mean, I can relate. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, and my grandparents raised me, and we didn't know anything about investing. The advice that I got was, hey, make some money and put some away in the savings account. And that's what I used to do. And when I was 16, I got exposed to the stock market through some kind of simulation class in high school. And I didn't know how it worked. And we had some fake money that we invested. And that's how I got exposed to it. And from there, I just kind of took it. And I would always advise people, if you are fortunate enough to have access to a 401k, you want to use that first and contribute at least the amount that they're going to match, if anything. So check to make sure that you're at least adding enough to get the full match from them. So I think that's a good starting place. But once you start to invest in the 401k, you need to expand outside of it, because what happens is if you have too much money built up in that 401k, ultimately, when you retire and start to pull the money out to live on, you have to pay income taxes every time you pull a dollar out of that 401k account. And you set yourself up almost for a tax time bomb. So you want to make sure that you're putting at least a match in the 401k. As your income increases, you want to be able to max that 401k out. And then from there, it's very important to start to use other types of accounts outside of the 401k so that you have some money that we can give to you where we're able to manage the tax impact much more efficiently. So, and also a lot of companies are starting to offer Roth 401ks. Now, a Roth 401k is excellent because the money that goes there, you pull it out tax-free when you retire, but you're not going to get a tax break now. So say, for example, if you make $100,000 and you put $10,000 in your regular traditional 401k, that's $10,000 of income that you do not have to pay taxes on right now, because that's put in the 401k. It reduced, you make 100, it's like you only made 90 that year. And then the 10,000 in the 401k is going to compound tax deferred over time. But when you pull it out, you have to pay income taxes at the end of the day. The Roth is the opposite. The Roth, you are going to pay your full income tax now. So if you make 100, you still get taxed on 100 this year. But the money that you put in the Roth account, it grows over time. Then you pull it out tax-free. And for many people, if you have access to the Roth 401k, many people, especially in the Washington, D.C. area where we live, they make too much money to add to a traditional Roth IRA, but there's no income limit on a Roth 401k or a Roth 403b. So they're great. They're great vehicles to use if you have access to them. So for people that have access to a 401k and a Roth 401k, I typically have them start to allocate to both. And then it depends upon their tax situation, their tax bracket right now. But, if you have one, just kind of a rule of thumb, you can maybe put 25% in the Roth 401k and then 75% in the traditional 401k. That's a good starting point. And then you would tweak that as your income changes.
But Antwone, all of this is scary. We're talking about a lot of money for a lot of people, because with the traditional 401k, 403b, TSP, you can put in $23,000 if you're under 50 and an additional $7,500 per year if you're over 50. And with the Roth, you can put in $7,000 under 50 and $8,000 if you're over 50. But it's scary, Antwone. I remember when the market crashed in 2008 and I just bought my home. I couldn't get a decent mortgage because the market was so uncertain. There was no predictability. And then again, with COVID, the market crashed. So people may be leery about putting their money in the stock market, although putting it under their mattress isn't helping either. What do we do when you have all these news saying that, the market crashed or the market's down, what do we do? Where do we put our money?
Well, I think that I'm glad you asked me that, because especially in our community, the Black community, we haven't had the history where we have an uncle that can tell us how the markets work, or father, grandpa, whoever. So it's very intimidating. And when you look at the media, their job is to really get eyeballs by sensationalizing a lot of the information that's being presented. So we're going to say, hey, the market crashed today. It was a terrible day on Wall Street today. And they keep doing that to try to draw eyeballs. But if you don't understand how the market works, it can make you kind of leery of the market. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making, Black people making, is that they're too conservative within their retirement accounts that they set up through their employer, that they don't have enough stock exposure. So this is actually one of the most important slides. If you're watching this and you get anything out of this, actually 2 slides. So this is one. This is the stock market over time. This is going back to 1980. This is the US stock market, this orange line here. And there's been a lot of bad things that have happened. We had a debt crisis in the early 80s. You had the junk bond crash. The market crashed in 1987. You had the Orange County bankruptcy in the early 90s. You had the Asian debt crisis, the dot-com bubble that most of you all remember from 2000. And the markets respond to it all. But if even the 2007, 2008 financial crisis that you referred to, Paula, and then we had COVID right here, 2020. But if you look at this market just goes up and to the right. It goes up and to the right. And there's some hiccups here, some scary moments here. But the most important thing is that you need to have a sufficient time horizon. And once you have an adequate time horizon, you should feel very comfortable allocating to a diversified group of stocks. And diversified is the operative term there. This is a chart of the S&P 500. So this is the Standard & Poor's 500. It's 500 of the largest stocks in the United States. So it's Google, Microsoft, McDonald's, General Motors, just these stalwart companies that everybody's familiar with. And it's all 500 in one investment. So you can buy the S&P 500. It's called an index fund, and it tracks the S&P 500 over time. So you're going to be diversified with 500 companies. And as I mentioned, over time, it goes up and to the right. So if you have at least a 7-year time horizon, you should feel very comfortable allocating money to the stock market. And your time horizon is not just when you plan to retire. So for example, if you're 60, you say, oh, I'm going to retire when I'm 65. I don't have a 7-year time horizon. That's not true. Your time horizon is your life expectancy, right? So at age 60, hopefully you lived at least 85, right? So you have a 25-year time horizon. Because even if you retire at 65, you're not going to deplete all of your retirement savings in 1 year. At least we hope you don't, right? So that money still needs to grow through retirement. So what we want to do is we want to have money that's outside of the stock market to start your retirement, and then money that is allocated in a diversified manner towards stocks to have the sufficient growth and compounding that you need. Because regardless of what the headlines are showing, the stock market goes up and to the right. You can feel confident that you can bet on American capitalism, people trying to continue to make money. That's been the case for 250 years, right? They're always going to try to continue to make money. So you want to be on the same side of that equation and benefiting from that. Now, this slide is also very important. This slide shows you the number of positive years in the stock market going back to 1926 versus the number of negative years. So since 1926, there have been 72 positive stock market years versus 26 negative stock market years. So what that means is the stock market is up 73% of the time. The stock market ends the year up in positive territory 73% of the time. So if you're in a situation where you go to Las Vegas and I give you special dice that are going to roll and hit 73% of the time, all you need to do is stay at the table long enough to continue to roll the dice, right? And then you're systematically over time going to achieve more money than what you came to the table with. It's going to happen statistically speaking, because we have a pair of dice that hits 73% of the time. Now, there's 27% of the time you do lose money, right? But you have to stay consistent. You can't leave the table when you roll the dice and it doesn't work out on that roll. And you have to have enough rolls at it to allow those statistics to play in your favor. And I think that's the important part.
So we're talking about time and compound interest. Is that correct?
Right. So it's time in the market versus timing the market. So having an adequate time horizon is the most important thing. The second most important thing is making sure that you're adequately diversified. And what I also think is important here, this shows the average return when you do have a positive year. So 73% of the time you do have a positive year, and the average return during the positive years is 21%. The average decline in a negative year is only 13.4%. So there are more positive years. And when there are positive years, the market is up more than it's typically down during the negative year. So the stock market is skewed in your favor. And we know this, right? We talk about the politicians skewing things in their favor. We talk about these corporations skewing things in their favor, and it's not fair, and it's not fair. But you just put yourself on the same side of that equation and you benefit from it. So if they cut taxes, good. My taxes are getting cut. If they do something to help people that own stock, they're going to cut the capital gains tax for the rich. Well, good. I want to be on that side of the equation. That's going to help me out.
So, it's so interesting because of what you and I have been doing over the last 6 years, you've helped me to mature all of my portfolio, whether it be my 403B, whether it be my SEP, because I am a W-2 employee, as well as I am an independent entrepreneur. So I have a self-employment pension plan with you that you manage. So you help to guide me. And it's so interesting. In talking to one of my coworkers, she told me recently that during COVID, she took her money out of her 401k and just kind of put it in storage because she was afraid to lose it all. Now she's significantly down. Yeah.
And that's a very common mistake. And that's why I'm saying there are going to be some down years. You just have to ride through them. So this is also very important. This is the same index that I'm talking about, the S&P 500 since 1937. If you look at any rolling 10-year period, so that's 1937 through 1946, 1938 through 1947, any rolling 10-year period, right? Your probability of a positive return over any 10-year period is 97.35%. So 97.35% of the time, if you're able to sit through a 10-year period, you're going to make money in the stock market. And what's also very interesting, this I thought was extremely interesting. This is the S&P 500 going back to 1979. So you have $10,000, you leave it invested in the S&P 500, $10,000 invested since 1979 grew to $1.3 million. Over this period, over a 44-year period, if you missed just 5 of the days, you reduced your return from 1.3 million down to 847,000. So you reduced your return by over $500,000 just by missing 5 days over a 44-year period, right? Which is thousands of trading days, right? If you miss 10 days, you drop it down to 610,000. And if you miss the best 30 days within this period, you drop it from 1.3 million down to 219,000. So your friend that pulled money out during COVID is a very common thing. I've seen that happen. This is what COVID represented as far as the stock market is concerned. Right? See this? You can't even see a little blip here when COVID went down, because the government understands that the entities funding them, corporations and people with a lot of money funding them, don't want the stock market to go down. So the government stepped in and put a backstop in when the market went down. So the market recovered immediately, basically. Now, it doesn't always happen like that. But even this global crisis in 2008, I mean, the market went down. The government kind of took a step back, but eventually they came in and backstopped the market. They provided money to the economy to get the economy moving again, because it will be a catastrophe for the market to tank and remain tanked forever, right? For the reasons that I stated. So you have a situation where corporations are trying to make money. They're supported by a government that wants to support them making money. So you're in a situation where the odds are in your favor, which I showed you. You simply cannot panic when there's an unfavorable market event. Now, if a market event like this causes you to be in financial ruin, that means, one, that you're probably taking the wrong types of risk, that you may not have diversified exposure. Maybe you have all your money in one or two stocks. Then you can lose all your money. That's not smart, right? You need to be diversified. Or you have money exposed to the stock market that you need within, as I said, a 7-year time period. So if I'm retiring in 2 years and everything I have is in the stock market, that's not good. I want to have at least 2 years of living expenses in something that's not exposed to stocks, like cash, money market accounts, CDs, things that are backed and secured and guaranteed, right? 2 years of living expenses, that gives me time to kind of sit through market volatility, which will happen. And then you have time to recover and allow your long-term money to continue to grow. So the way you should think about your retirement money is your cash bucket should be 2 years of living expenses. So if you need $10,000 a month in retirement, yes, you should have about $120,000 someplace, right? That's not exposed to stocks, right? Then double it, right? You need hundreds of thousands of dollars to support that lifestyle if you're used to pulling $10,000 a month from your account. Because the market's going to be volatile, you know you're going to need the money. You're no longer working. So for you to retire, I know people look at their 401k and they'll see $300,000 there. And for a lot of us, you know, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
But if you're used to living in Washington, D.C. metro area and you're used to making a 6-figure income, that's not a lot of money in terms of retiring to support yourself for the next 20, 25, 30 years. So you need to start thinking in terms of being a multimillionaire to retire. And that's a fact. Now, if you have a pension, the value of that pension is probably a couple of $1 million. And that's not an exaggeration. So if you're fortunate enough to have a pension, that's great. If you have Social Security, which most of us have, you want to take that Social Security and subtract whatever you need. So if you need $10,000 a month and Social Security is $3,000, then you're going to be withdrawing $7,000 a month. So you need to multiply that by 24, and that's going to be the amount of money that you need to have in reserve. It looks like there's some questions that they're showing.
No, this is good information because now you're flowing into retirement, which is important. Now I'm getting texts and I'm getting comments all over the place. So this is one from Jocelyn. It says, can a single owner LLC lend their business money or cash to, say, buy an investment property, especially with our current interest rate? And what are the ratifications, if any? Meaning lend herself money through her 401k.
She must have lent herself money through the 401k. Yeah, I'm not a fan of borrowing from the 401k at all. For a couple of reasons. One, you have to pay it back. And while you're paying it back, you've kind of put the 401k on hold. So it's no longer, you're no longer getting that compounding happening while you borrowed from it while it's on hold. So you can't really contribute to it while you borrowed from it. So because you have to pay the loan back. And the other part is you have to pay that back with after-tax dollars. So if you have $100 in the 401k, you put it in there with pre-tax money. You have to make after-tax money to repay the loan, right? So basically, you have 100 in there, you borrow 100. Now I have to go earn $100 of after-tax money to get that back in. So it's like you making 130 to get it back in, and it's not compounding. The 401k is not a good place to borrow from. You can. It's for extreme emergencies. I wouldn't borrow from the 401k to buy property.
Okay, here's another question from Phyllis. And it says, Jocelyn says, thank you. Phyllis says, there's a two-part question. What type of annuities are there and which one do you recommend and why? And how much does it take to initially fund an annuity?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of annuities. They may have a place. They're typically abused and not sold properly. They generate a lot of commissions for the people. I don't sell annuities to my clients. they can make sense in certain situations, but when I've looked at them, I found that they're expensive, and there's different ways to generate income that's less expensive and better for the client long term, in my opinion. So I don't sell annuities. I'm not an annuity expert. So you can buy an annuity for as little as a few $1,000s. So there's not a certain minimum that you need typically. But what happens is an annuity is an insurance product. So it's sold by insurance companies, and then there's a good chunk of the annuity that goes back to the insurance company. They're pretty expensive, and the internal fees aren't always disclosed accurately. So you have to have someone that really knows how to break out the internal fees of an annuity to show you what they are. Now, they're more attractive than they were, say, the last 10 years because interest rates have come up. When interest rates were very low, they were really not attractive. Now that interest rates have come up a bit, they're more attractive than they were. But for the same reason, since interest rates have come up, there are other ways to generate income now, right? So you can get a CD and generate 5% income. Plus, I like the fact that I'm able to grow my principal better over multiples of decades outside of the confines of an annuity because of the high fees within the annuity. It takes a lot of the compounding away from you and gives it to the insurance company. So it's better to have your compounding happen. So if an annuity pays you 7% in income with less compounding, I'd rather take 4% in income from dividend paying stocks and maintain my compounding, right? I have less income now, but I'm going to have more money at the end of the day. Then at the end of your life, you have principal that you can use for your end of life expenses or for you to pass on to your heirs. Typically with the annuity, insurance company's going to come in and take that money back, a good chunk of it back.
So let's talk about that. So every 6 months, you give us a text. It's time to have a conversation. So I gather all my stuff. I get all of my statements. I get my mortgage statement. I get my 401k statement. I get all my investment statements. I get my savings so that we can have a true conversation. Because you look at me as a whole picture. I'm not just Paula. We're not just Paula and Hugh, but we're parents. We're going to retire. We're entrepreneurs. So we look at all that. And my company stopped giving me a pension in 2009. So the money that I have there, you told me to make sure that I signed Hugh on. So in the event that I die before my husband, he will have full access to getting that pension until he dies. And then you also said something interesting. Is that it is an annuity. It's an annualized payment. So it's an annuity. You said if I took that money out, put it in an investment vehicle, that way, if something happens to both me and my husband, that money doesn't stop because we can put it into our trust and leave it to our children. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I have a million questions to get to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, my wife works for the government. So, if you work for the government, you're going to have a pension. I don't plan on annuitizing. I don't plan on taking the monthly payment. We're going to take a lump sum and I'll invest it and generate the income. So what I mean is, save a pension for $5,000 a month, right? Which would be great. $5,000 a month for the rest of your life, guaranteed. Excellent. Or they'll say, we'll give you $600,000. We'll write a check for $600,000 one time, lump sum. I would prefer to take the $600,000 and just take the lump sum, right? In the example that I gave, because I can make that generate, say, $30,000 a year and still have the growth be available. So, 30,000 divided by 12, that's, instead of 5,000 a month, it's more like, 2,500 hours a month in income that I would be able to pay out, right? So you're thinking, well, that's half the amount, right? But I still have my principal. I have $600,000 that I'm now growing. It's invested. It's going to be growing hopefully the next 30 years. And I'm going to need money toward the end of my life. Most people do not have long-term care insurance. And most people have a long-term care event toward the end of their life. They need somebody to come in and help them with their daily living activities, using the bathroom, moving from bed to bed. You dealt with all this stuff. It's expensive. I've dealt with it. We had to hire someone to come to the house, and it was a lot of money, and it's six figures typically. So having that money to be able to not be a burden on your family is a big deal. And if you don't need it, great. Now you have money to leave to your spouse, to your loved ones, to your kids, versus having it in some sort of annuity that stops with your life or the life of your spouse. So Social Security is an annuity, right? It's the best annuity because you've already paid into it. There's no insurance company behind it. It's backed by the U.S. government, and it's indexed for inflation. It goes up each year with inflation. And the longer you delay, you get a kicker, 8% kicker each year you wait. So if you could take it at 66, if you wait till 70, you'll have a 32% boost to your Social Security payments. That's also growing with inflation. That's great. So instead of you buying an annuity, why don't you just delay your Social Security and increase that annuity, and then you still have your principal available to you to invest and to grow over time. So I think.
But Antwone, people are concerned. People are thinking, I need to get my Social Security at 62 because I may die before I turn 70, or I may die at 71.
Yeah, that's true. And if you die, you don't need it. What are we complaining about? You're dead. What I'm worried about is that you well, my mama died at 75. My grandmama died at 72. I'm going to die at 77, and you live to 97. Oh, you lived 20 years longer than you thought. That's the problem, right? That's where the risk really are. So the Social Security is basically just longevity insurance. It's what if I live a long time? I have a guaranteed stream of income that's growing with inflation for the rest of my life that I cannot outlive. So people say, well, I'm going to take it early because I want to get it out of the system. I may die. That's not how you think about Social Security. That's and most people take it early. That's a mistake. You want to delay it as long as you can. Now, if you simply can't afford to delay it, then that's a separate conversation. But if you have 401k resources and you can fund yourself until your Social Security kicks in, so you retire at 65, you have to take it at 70. You can't delay past then. So I have 5 years. Can I fund myself for the 5 years until Social Security kicks in, and then allow myself to get a guaranteed 8% increase each year I delay? It's guaranteed. And the higher payment is now indexed for inflation. So when they add the inflation kicker, it's on a higher number. Yeah, we want to delay that. And then we want to break that 401k down so that when you're 73 now, the way the law is written now, you have to pull the money out of your 401k. Well, because I've spent some of it down, the tax bill on that's going to be less onerous, right? So there's a lot of things we need to think through, but rule of thumb, if you can delay the Social Security, that's typically a good idea.
So we talked about, I believe, 3 of the 4 legs. We mentioned all 4. We talked about retirement being Social Security, pension. We talked about 401k. Talk about cash really quickly, because you told me, it's interesting. We talked about long-term care insurance and how expensive it was and how unpredictable. It could be $1,000 a month. Then they can change the rules in 2 years. And what we discovered through research is people who go into long-term facilities, they live less than 3 years. So why lose your house or after just 3 years of being in a long-term care facility or having private nursing home care in your home? So you said you need to have cash ready available to supplement some of your investment accounts.
Yeah, so the cash piece, as we're thinking through that, you need cash at all times. So I mentioned 2 years of living expenses. So what we do is we have that first bucket of 2 years. Now, this is a big deal, right? Like I said, 2 years of living expenses is going to be, a couple $100,000 for many people. And it really is that. You really do need that. So before you retire, you need to start thinking that I need to have some serious cash reserves, right? That means if you sell a house or something like that, and you want to start putting some stuff away. When you get access to lump sums of money, get that cash put aside for retirement. Now, the reason it's important is, one, I want to give you money irrespective of what the stock market's doing. So if everything's in the stock market and the market tanks, then I have to sell things when they're down to give you money to live on. That's not good, because now the money's not there to recover, right? So you want to have that cash bucket. As you deplete the cash bucket, you want to replenish it from the investments opportunistically. So if you have bonds paying interest, you take the interest payments and put them back in that cash bucket to replenish the bucket. When the market's doing really great, 73% of the time when the market's up, let's sell some stock now while it's good and replenish that cash bucket. You want to do that systematically. Now, what you also want to have are some Roth assets, ideally. The Roth is basically you self-funding your end of life. If you do not have long-term care insurance, which most people do not, and it's very expensive, and they had mispriced long-term care insurance policies, the insurance company mispriced them, meaning that people were using them longer than they thought, and people were the cost of the facilities kind of went up exponentially. And when they put these policies out in the 90s, they're like, oh, wow, we're losing money on all these long-term care policies. So I've had clients, more than one client, where they sent them a letter saying, hey, you've been paying X 1,500 hours a month for the last 15 years. Now we either need to reduce your benefit or take some of the other kickers out. So they had inflation kickers. They're saying, well, you're not going to get a cost of living increase with your payments anymore. You have to pay a higher premium. Take a pick. And they can keep, I read the fine print, they can keep doing that. So even my own mother-in-law was like, all right, well, we got to take a look at this and see if this makes sense because of the way these policies are structured. So a lot of people, including myself, are self-insuring for their long-term care situation. You know it's probably coming, right? Unless you just pass away immediately, you know, you're probably going to have a decline and need some help. So it's something that we prep for. So that cash is really to make sure that I'm able to fund you without having to deplete volatile assets to fund you. And the Roth account is really for your end of life. And the cash piece, I can give you that money tax-free, right? Because you already pay taxes on it. So if you have 2 years of expenses and you stop working and you've delayed your Social Security, well, you're in a very low tax bracket. You're in the 0% tax bracket, right? So now I can give you some of your 401k money and keep you in a low tax bracket and give you the rest from that cash bucket that we were talking about. Then I can manage your taxes throughout retirement because every dollar is not coming from the 401k where you have to pay income taxes on it, which will put your tax bill up pretty high pretty quickly.
Okay, Anton, we have a ton of questions, okay? So here's the first one from PM Entertainment. What TSP fund should your retirement funds be in? C, S, or G if you are within 5 years of retirement?
Well, the C fund is the S&P 500. The S is a small company fund, and the G fund is like the guaranteed fund. It really depends. I mean, I can't answer that question without seeing your other assets. It would depend upon, again, do you have cash outside the TSP? What other investments do you have? But if you're going to retire within 5 years, you know, you don't want it all in the C or S fund. That would be all in the stocks. The G fund is guaranteed. So, you know, a portion of your TSP should be in that. Now, how much, again, depends on other factors that I don't have enough information to answer that. It should not all be in the C and S fund.
Gotcha. Here's another question from Giovanna Jackson. It says, hi, I am 32 years old. I make about $55,000 a year, and I haven't started saving into my retirement. Is it too late for me to become a millionaire? No,
it's not. And you should count on becoming a millionaire so you can retire. So yes, just, you know, the best time to plant a tree was last year. Next best time is right now. So yeah, it'd have been great if you planted the seed 10 years ago. You didn't. You're not the only one. It'll be bad if you wait 10 more years. So get started and get the compounding working.
Quite honestly, if you put your money into a Roth, gaining 10% interest over the next 30 years, you'll put in $200,000 or $300,000, and you'll gain $700,000 to $800,000, and you'll be a millionaire before you're 65 years of age.
Yeah, so you're actually in good shape, Javon.
Okay, here's another one. Leader of the pack. I know a lot of coworkers who have pulled out of their 401k during COVID to invest in real estate and purchase 1 to 2 houses. Was that a good investment?
No, it wasn't. and the reason is because if you're buying a house for cash flow, right? Whether you pull all your money out of your 401k to do it, or you just put down the least amount of money possible to do it, you still have the house generating the cash. If you bought it for appreciation, you don't need to pull all your money out to purchase the house for the house to appreciate. So with real estate, you want to secure the real estate for the least amount of money possible, because the appreciation of that asset is not dependent upon how much you put in it, right? So the bank will let me buy a property for $20,000, or they say I can put $200,000 in it. The property is going to appreciate whether I put $20,000 down or $200,000 down, right? Because the appreciation is based upon what happens in that neighborhood, right? So you took money out of a 401k, you paid income taxes on it. If you're under age 59 and a half, you have to pay a penalty, right? So you penalize yourself to go buy property, and now you don't have retirement assets accumulating within the 401k. COVID was over from a stock market perspective in the 4 weeks, right? So now you haven't had any compounding in the last 4 years, right? And when you retire, you're going to go, oh, I need money to retire on. What do I have? Oh, all my money's tied up in these properties. So you have no liquidity. So no, I don't think that was a good use of a 401k asset. Now, buying the property is fine. If you like to invest in real estate, that's fine. You just want to be smart about where you're sourcing the money from, how you're sourcing the money. Are you buying the properties for income, or are you buying the properties for appreciation of the property over time? And how do you want to most efficiently secure that asset? And it's not depleting your 401k.
Question: what verbiage do I use to get young adults / teenagers excited about investing?
Ask them what they're interested in and see if there's a stock associated with it and buy it. And, I wouldn't put a ton, my kids, I have two small boys, 9 and 8. They like Roblox. Roblox is a publicly traded company. I don't know if it's a great investment or not. I put a few $100 in there. Hey, let's buy the stock. Now they ask me how the Roblox stock is doing. So now they're interested. So from there, it gives me an opening to teach them. And I'm not really concerned with whether Roblox stock is a great investment or not. It's just more of me being able to connect with them on their level. Hey, you own Roblox now. So that you own part of the company. They can go to the school. Hey, I own some of this stuff, So that's what I would recommend.
Here's another question, came from YouTube. What are your thoughts about robo investing? This is a new investing where the AI computer moves your money from investing quicker than a human.
Yeah. Can I pull the slides back up again?
Of course. Let me get my backstage to help us. There we go.
See this is the S&P going up to the right. It doesn't have to be very sexy. Just do this. Then let it sit there. All this new, look at this, flash this, meme stock this and robo this, all that's great. Just the market's going to go up and to the right. So just hold it and invest it. Now, if you are interested, you can start doing research and doing your own investing where you're picking out your own stocks. That's different. And that if you're inclined to do that, you can do better than just the market over time. But if you're like, hey, this is not really my thing, I don't want to be reading articles all the time or online researching all the time, I'm just not really interested. You should buy an index fund like this, a broad diversified index fund, and make sure you have at least 7 years and let it sit there. They're going to come out with all kinds of stuff. The AI, robo, this, there's no AI that can predict the future, right? There's no degree that's going to predict the future. So you just have to know what's happened historically and use it to your advantage. So yeah, if I would start here, and then if you have some extra money that you want to see how the AI stuff works out, that's fine. Take a flyer with it. But most of your money should be in something because the AI stuff may not work. And if you can't rely upon that too much, then you're going to look up in 10 years and go, oh, wow, I'm kind of behind the 8 ball. This has been pretty consistent.
We have a question. And the question is from Natasha. At what age can you start a Roth?
when you have earned income. So whenever that is. So if you have a kid that's you have a business and you put them on your payroll when they're 12, start the Roth. If they start scooping ice cream when they're 16, start the Roth.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
So my kids are going to work for me, and I'm put them on the payroll and start their Roth account. I haven't yet, but when they're about early teens, 12, 13, I'll get them on the payroll and get their just for the Roth piece, because you're going to put the money in and get $7,000 in there based upon the law now. Or it's up to however much money they make. So if they only make 4,000, you can only put 4,000 in, up to 7,000, and then compounding, and you pull the money out tax free for the rest of their life. I mean, by the time they're 60, they'll have a lot of money in the Roth, and then you pull it out tax free. That's a big deal. Yeah. So, yep.
I mean, do you not think that Serena Williams' daughter, who's doing the advertisement for her, or Beyonce's daughter, who's on stage doing her thing, do you not think that they're investing in the Roth and every other vehicle possible because they're making money? It's just incredible, the things that we don't know. And I've hired my kids since they were in high school. They're here in this office, in my studio, doing my work in the background because technology is not my thing. But I've been hiring my kids for almost 8 years now, paying them, having them invest. So their money's making money through compound. We have a guest for you in the backstage.
Good evening. Good evening.
I'm Malika. What's up, Malika?
Hello. I have a question. I had a clarifier for your earlier statement about the lump sum if there's two pensions or two TSPs. I wasn't clear on if you're saying someone should take the lump sum from their actual pension, one of the spouses, or is it just the TSP? So if you could clarify that.
Good question. TSP, definitely. There's no way ever you would annuitize a TSP, meaning that I know they give you the option to get a monthly payment from your TSP. You definitely don't want to do that, because I know you, Leak. I know you work for the government, so you already have a pension, and you're under FERS, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So you've earned Social Security credits, so you're going to have two pensions basically. I'm talking about your pension.
Okay.
If they give you a lump sum option, I'm taking the lump sum for that.
Okay.
For the reason that I stated. So between you and your husband, two government employees, especially, because if you're really scared, you can say, all right, dude, you take the monthly payment, I'm taking a lump sum for mine.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, Lika, it's like you can set it up so if you pass away first, Ed gets a benefit and vice versa. But if you both pass away, unfortunately, something happens at the same time, both of you all, pension that's a wrap.
Right. So why
not have that available? Now, the monthly payout is lower than it would be with a pension, because the pension, all it's doing is giving you part of your own money back. It's your principal and whatever interest. So I can give you the interest payments.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if your pension is, all right, think of it like this. You retire at 65, you pass away at 90, right? That's 25 years. 25 years of your pension, and at the end of the day, when you and your husband pass away, there's nothing left. I could probably replicate the pension payment if I'm giving you interest and eating into your principal, right? We're saying the same thing basically, but I don't want to eat into your principal. I'm rather say, hey, Leek, instead you get 10,000 a month, I'll give you 5,000 a month.
Right.
And then this is going to continue to grow. We also have a TSP that's going to be growing, and your annuity is going to be your Social Security. And like I said, if you're not comfortable with that, then you take Ed's monthly pension, right? So you're going to have Social Security payments. It's going to be probably $6,000-7,000 a month in Social Security payments, right? Plus any interest that I'm giving you from the thing is going to be $5,000 a month. That's just one, mm-hmm. right? If you do that with two lump sum pensions, that's $10,000 a month plus $17,000 a month there. I mean, you're probably gonna be all right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we haven't depleted your principal.
Okay.
Then you drop dead and give it to your kids.
Right. So that's what I was clarifying. And then my next question, that was great, and we're gonna call you. But my next question is, how aggressive should you be in trying to pay off your mortgage? I was always taught I guess, with older Black relatives, like, hurry up and pay off your house. And so I just wanted to know how aggressive you think someone should be with paying off a mortgage. We talked about this before with us, but just wanting to know what's your professional opinion on that.
Lika, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked me that. Actually, I'm not paying my mortgage off ever. I'm going to die. If I die before it's paid off, good. The state will pay it off. There's so many reasons why you don't pay it off. I believe you're still in the same house, so you probably have a good interest rate. So that for that reason, it's like a no-brainer not to pay yours off. But even if you're buying a house now, say you buy a house that's like 7, and I just ran the numbers on this because I just did a webinar on this, so I know the numbers off the top of my head. Actually, if you have a $500,000 mortgage and you get a 7% mortgage, 30 years, 7%, the total cost of that mortgage over 30 years is a little bit more than $1.1 million. If you take $500,000 and compound it at 5%, for 30 years, you end up with $2.2 million. So I said $500,000 mortgage at 7%, but you invest it and only get 5%. You're only getting 5%, but the cost of it would be 7%. You still come out better because when you have a mortgage, you start with $500,000 that you borrowed. Now I made a payment. Now I owe $499,000, whatever. Now I make another payment. So the 7% is applied to a constantly decreasing principal value. So by the time you get to year 10, year 20, your last payment, you're going to owe like $5,000. So the 7% is going to be applied to a $5,000 base. It's a constantly decreasing base. That's how our amortization schedule works. For investing, it's a compounding schedule. I have 500,000. Now I have 500,000, $500. So the interest is compounding. So now after 10 years, I started with my 5% applying to 500,000. Now my 5% is applied to 700,000. So the it's an ever increasing principal balance versus an ever decreasing. So you end up with an extra $1 million at your disposal by not paying off a mortgage. And that's a mortgage with a higher interest rate than you earn. And we can get 5% in this environment almost risk-free. Right? So no, I'm not paying a mortgage off. You should not pay your mortgage off. And I mean, it's hard to say categorically every time because people have different circumstances, but generally speaking, financially speaking, if you can afford a mortgage in retirement, it's in your best interest to have that. Now, if you had the money sitting on the side doing nothing, that's stupid. No, then you should pay your more. If you are comfortable investing the money, which you should be, as I showed you before, if it's diversified and invested, you're going to end up most likely with more money at the end of the day, as long as markets continue to do what they've done since the markets have been available.
Right.
Depressions and wars and everything else. So, yeah.
Right. And I remember you explaining before when we talked, like, even if you pay your mortgage off, your house is not going to grow a money spout to the side. You still have to go to a bank to get money out of your house, even if it's paid off. Either you have to sell it or you have to get a loan against it or something like that. So that makes sense. I just, I mean, what we grow up learning is like, be comfortable and don't have a mortgage, don't have bills. And I know that there are healthy bills, right? There are things that are going to be healthy for you to have.
And I mean, in our parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts' defense, I mean, that's good information when you wouldn't even allow to get a bank account, right? It was like, all right, well, if I'm able to get a mortgage, I want to get myself out of debt as soon as possible. Things have changed quite a bit. Plus, at certain points, depending upon when I don't know who's giving you the information, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, some points those interest rates were like 14%. It was like crazy. 70s, 80s, it was really crazy. So, but as I mentioned, even if the rate, you have to compare the rate to return. Now, you have to invest the money. So if I had $500,000, I was going to write this check. I didn't write the check. I kept the mortgage. That money has to get invested immediately. So I refinanced my house when the rates dropped down. I saved like $800 a month, and I immediately took the savings and started just investing it. I don't even look at it, Lika. And it's probably, I mean, I don't even look at it. I
Yeah.
literally, I set it up, boom, every month. I'll
Makes
check it out in 10 years.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, thank you, Malika. I appreciate your coming on.
No problem.
Okay, bye-bye. Such great questions. Wow. Because I know we talked about paying off our mortgage. And again, I'm like one of those people who were scared to go into retirement with a whole bunch of debt. So I know we talked about the same information about not just doubling up your payments, but putting that money in an investment vehicle and making your money make money for you. And as I love Warren Buffett, and you love Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett said, if you don't have a way to have your money make money for you while you sleep, then you'll work until you die. And with that being said, we have another question from Natasha. And Natasha asks, sorry, came in a little late. How do you open up a compound interest making account? Can anyone open up one? And I know you reviewed that, but just quickly go over that again, please.
A compound account. Okay.
Meaning an investment account that makes
Sure.
money for
So,
her. Mhm.
One of there's several companies that are very reputable. One is Charles Schwab. One is Fidelity, a company called Vanguard. You can literally open an account in 10 minutes. You just go, schwab.com, fidelity.com, vanguard.com. They'll say, open an account. You put your name information in there, and you'll have an account set up. Now you need to fund it. So they'll typically have instructions on how to fund it. You can link your bank account to the investment account, and you can move money online. You can send them a check. You can find a local branch and take a check down in person. You can call their support number, and they can wire money from your bank. Once you get the money there, it's not invested. It's just sitting there in cash, idle. So then you have to make one more step and call or go online and invest it. And what you want to do is, if you don't know how to invest, you want to use an index fund. That's what I was showing you before. The S&P 500 is an example of an index fund. Say, how do I do an index fund? And the person on the phone will say, here's some index funds. Just put it all in an index fund. As long as you have at least 7 years before you need the money, you can feel comfortable doing that because it's fully diversified. There's also something called a target date fund. And a target date fund is also fully diversified, but the money's earmarked for a set time frame. So say, for example, there are target date funds for the year 2040. So if you're sitting here, you're saying, you know what, I'm going to retire in 15 years. I'm 50, I want to retire at 65. I don't know what I'm doing. Fine. Open the account. Get the money there. Call somebody. I want to have a target date fund for the year 2040. They're in 5-year increments, 2035, 2040, 2045, 2050, whatever time frame, and put the money there and let it sit there. And it's going to get less risky over time automatically. You don't have to do anything, and they're not expensive. And so what happens is people always call, and someone's going to call you and say, hey, you should buy insurance, or you should buy this annuity. And like I said, there are times when that's appropriate. Most of the time, those are not sold properly. Those are sold so someone can get a commission. And it's not always in your best interest. So there are better ways to invest. You should not, insurance is not for investing. Insurance is for insurance. So you have insurance when you need insurance. You have investments when you have investments, and they're separate.
Antwone, we're running out of time, but I'm getting more questions. But I want to say something that everybody charges a commission, right? You're a fiduciary. You're my fiduciary. And a fiduciary means that you are responsible to me. Some of these insurance phone calls you get, these people they're selling what their companies insisting that they're selling a particular product that they're pushing at you, not necessarily in your best interest. So as a fiduciary, you're responsible for having my money to grow. Is that correct?
That's right. A fiduciary is obligated legally to work in your client's best interest.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to get everything in.
Not beholden to any investment, and whoever your advisor is should just be agnostic as far as the investments are concerned. They can invest in anything in the world. It's what's in your best interest. What do you need? What works for you? And they're going to be paid the same regardless of what the investment is. That's the type of financial advisor you should have. Yes.
So with that being said, I believe you have a 1% fee. Right? But people don't know that 401ks, 403bs, they also have fees. My job passed the full, we have ours through Empower. They passed the fee over to us now. So we're now still paying that fee, but people don't recognize it. There's always fees, and we need to make sure that the fees are in our best interest. I have another question, and we're going to be tagging down soon. Bola, so are you suggesting that instead of paying extra to pay off your mortgage early, just apply the extra funds towards an investment that can earn you good returns and not try to pay off your mortgage early?
Yes. So the mortgage thing, like I said, anytime you're asking financial planning questions in a forum like this, the answer is always, we have to look at your personal financial situation, because I don't know you. I don't know exactly what your income is or what your savings are. A rule of thumb is what I mentioned. Over a 30-year period, if you're able to invest the money and you can afford the mortgage, you'll end up, as long as you invest the money in a diversified manner, you'll end up typically over that period with more than if you paid off the mortgage. You end up in a better financial situation toward the end of your life.
Antwone, this has been absolutely amazing as always, and you know how much I love you. Just let me just introduce my next guest for next month, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Woo! Did I not tell you that this brother is bad? I trust him implicitly. I love him. I love his wife. I love his kids. I trust him. He's going to not just help me to guide where my money should be. He teaches me. He says to me, how much are your kids' tuition? How much are you helping them with? How much are your children investing, right? Because we want to make sure that we're creating generational wealth. And that's what Wealth Wednesdays are about, to be in a position to have us ask the experts and get our questions answered. So for those of you who did the survey, we're going to be announcing the winner in about, let's say, a minute or two. But I want to introduce my next guest. His name is Mr. Brian Clark. He is the author of The 5 Laws of Credit. He will be right here with us on June 26th. If you guys have credit questions, if you have credit score questions, if you have questions about getting out of these 500 scores and boosting it up to a 700 legally, not any scams, not paying someone $100 a month to fix your score. We're talking about doing it the right way and being in a position where your interest rate benefits you, just like the compounding effect. Compound interest can benefit you or it can benefit the bank. Mr. Brian Clark knows how to get those questions answered. And he's my friend as well. He's been powerful in lots of areas, including entrepreneurship, and he's going to be right here with you. But I want to say goodbye to my friend Antwone. Antwone, there are no words. There are so many more questions that I can ask, and you touched upon them all. You talked about compounding effect and how your money grows while you sleep with compound interest, but you got to stay invested in the market at all times. You talked about savings, Social Security, pensions, 401k. Those are the 4 legs of the retirement stool. And $1 million is a lot of money. But the reality is, if someone would have told me in my 20s, I would have started investing. I didn't start until I was 34. And I know that my money's growing and that my children are in a position to have their money grow from any time that they start making money. So are there any last minute tips you want to leave for our audience before we say goodbye?
Yes. I think the most important thing is you want to get started as soon as you possibly can, and you want to put as much money away. I know you know that, but it makes a big difference. I wish I had the charts to show you how just delaying by a couple of years can alter the outcome dramatically. So some people it sounded like they were just starting out, and if you felt like you should have started earlier, don't kick yourself. It's okay. You're not alone. Just get started right away. If you're in your 50s and your 40s and you're like, hey, I have a few $100,000, I'm doing pretty well, you need to step it up, because you're going to need quite a bit of money to maintain your lifestyle for some undefined period of time. And we hope you live a nice, long life. So, Paula, thank you for having me. Like I said, an opportunity to come and give information in my own community is always a blessing. And I thank God, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone. Let me announce the 2 winners. Let me just drop that off the screen. Antwone's takeaway. And I'm doing something crazy here. Okay, so there are winners to our Amazon gift cards, and I thank you guys for giving me doing the survey. And the survey is important. Why? Because it has me to be in a position where I come to your communities and I know what issues to address. So are there anyone, Tiffany, thank you for watching. Kendall, thank you for watching. Are there any winners, Daryl? Daryl's my backhand stage. And the winners are, these are my 2 winners of the Amazon gift cards. We will be sending those to your email within the next half an hour. I say, God bless. Thank you for watching. And I will see each of you this time a month from now, last Wednesday of the month. Have an amazing night.
Today, build a budget, grow your wealth, nurse your health, come on, don't delay. With her advice to learn how to allocate, don't hesitate, wait, this is the day to elevate your health, your wealth, and everything else. Get money saved no matter what is dealt. There's a disease that thrives, that ruins our lives, it's yet you bet, but sure we can fight it, you know that. She'll help, not her then, who else? No in between, she'll make it a scene, cause
It's the queen.